Well, hey, everybody. I am joined today by Amy Hennings, and some of you in the congregation know Amy and her family, her husband Tim, and their kids Joseph and Lindsay, and they're wonderful members here at Elim. And Amy is a nutritional therapist, and I thought it would be a great idea in a time when there's a lot of concern over sickness, certainly the coronavirus, but a lot of people, even with common colds, with sinus infection, whatever it may be, to give some advice on how to hopefully even help us possibly to avoid getting sick, and if we do, how to lessen the intensity and maybe quicken the process for healing. So Amy, but why don't you just go ahead and start out and tell us a little bit more about your background in nutrition?
Sure. Well, I actually became interested in health, nutrition, and fitness at a pretty young age. I was probably around 10 or 11. So I'm not exactly sure what started it. I think I might have taken a 4-H class on cooking or nutrition or something like that, but it became a pretty strong passion at a young age. So I studied dietetics in college. And then I also worked as a certified personal trainer shortly after getting married and moving to the Quad Cities. Then in 2018, I became a certified nutritional therapy practitioner. What led me to decide to pursue that was I had been having some health problems that started 5 or 6 years ago, which I now believe were caused by an overexercise problem. I had developed some pretty bad insomnia. I had hormonal imbalances and some nutrient deficiencies, and that's just a few of the things I was experiencing. But through taking the class and making some changes in my diet and my lifestyle, I've been able to overcome most of those, and my health is a lot better than where I was a few years ago.
Neat. So what advice can you give us? First of all, how important is it to maintain a strong and healthy immune system?
Oh, it's absolutely important to have a strong immune system. And it's something that we have a lot more control over than what you might think.
Okay. So what would you say are some of the best practices in helping to strengthen our immune system?
Well, number one would be a healthy diet. So my number one tip when it comes to diet is to avoid processed food. And if you were in one of my restart classes, you know that we talk about this a lot. So processed food is something that was made in a factory. It comes in a box or a bag or a package, and it can sit on your shelf for years and years without going bad. And if you look at the ingredient list, it's a long list with lots of words you can't pronounce. So our bodies just were not designed to eat that kind of stuff, and our immune system can't function the way it's supposed to when we're eating that all the time.
I've heard it said that in a grocery store, you should do about 95% of your purchases on the outer edges of the store, because that's where you've got your fruits and vegetables, that's where you got your meats and dairy and things like that, because it's all in the centers where you get your processed foods.
That's right. Yep. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about what real food is something that you're going to find in nature. So fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, eggs, nuts, and seeds, those are all examples of real foods. So they don't have an ingredient, they don't have an ingredient list. They are an ingredient. Okay. Real food will spoil or rot quickly. That's an easy way to kind of tell if a food is good for you or not. It's not going to keep forever.
Okay, neat. So, all right. So real food, not processed food. That's the first recommendation. All right.
Yeah. My next recommendation would be make sure you're getting enough sleep. That's an area that a lot of people shortchange, and they just don't realize what a huge effect having enough sleep has on the immune system. So go for a minimum of 7 hours if you can, but 8 or 9 is better. And I know a lot of people aren't getting that much, but it's when we're sleeping that our bodies go through the natural detoxification and rebuilding processes that it needs to. And when we just don't get enough sleep, that can't happen.
Yeah, there's a book, The Overload Syndrome. It's called The Overload Syndrome, written by a medical doctor. And he was saying that, for all the generations before, and before electricity, people averaged 9 to 11 hours of sleep at night. But we have been brutalizing ourselves because we just keep chopping that down, and now the average is less than 7, and sleep deprivation quite literally is becoming a bad health hazard.
Yep. And if you're having trouble sleeping, I have a few tips. Okay. So my first tip would be avoid caffeine after 12 p.m. And then what you were talking about with the light, going for a walk in the sun, especially early in the morning, getting that sunlight hitting your eyes, that signals to your body that it's daytime, and it shifts the hormones that need to shift to set your circadian rhythm the way it needs to be. So, and then in the same vein, avoiding light at night. So light, limit screen time, light from your computer, your phone, your television, all of that. If it's hitting your eyes late at night, it signals to your body that it's still daytime, and you're not going to start producing the melatonin you need to get a good night's sleep. So I like to wear, these are my blue light blocker glasses. And if I know I'm going to be looking at the computer or at my phone or watching TV, I'll put these on around 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And it just, it protects my eyes from that light causing, so I can produce the melatonin I need to get a good night's sleep. So these are great.
So if you have to be and continue to work into the evening hours, I imagine that's a pretty inexpensive pair of glasses.
Yes. I've had these for several years, and I can't remember exactly what I paid for them, but like I said, they've lasted for a long time. Trying to remember the brand name of these. I know there's a lot of different kind out there. If you just search for blue light blockers, you'll get a lot of options to shop.
I think I've seen those in Walgreens.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So an inexpensive investment to help if you need to. Otherwise, try and limit the amount of electronic light and overhead lights from 8 p.m. on, so that your body starts to produce the melatonin so that you can go to sleep and get a better night's sleep. Good.
Yep. Okay. Next is movement. It's important to move your body in some way every day. So physical activity helps flush bacteria out of your lungs and your airways, and it also causes your white blood cells and antibodies to circulate throughout your body, which is what we want. Also, the brief rise in body temperature during exercise can keep bacteria and viruses from growing, similar to like when you have a fever, that raise in body temperature. And also light exercise like walking or riding a bike lowers a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is a stress hormone that's normal in small amounts, but when cortisol is high all the time, it weakens the immune system. So again, like going out for a walk in the sun, that's a great way to lower cortisol.
Yeah. And so, I've heard too that, intense exercise doesn't have to be every day, but some intensity is good. But for older people too, it's not even, it's just movement. It doesn't even have to be that intense, right?
It doesn't, no. Okay. Walking is one of the best things that you can do. Anybody, and just about anybody can do that. So, and even if it's for 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to get the benefits.
Great. So simple things: whole foods, good sleep, and movement. And then you said 4.
Yeah.
What's the 4th?
So my last one is stress reduction. So stress can come from many different places. It can be a physical stress, like what I mentioned with my over-exercising. That was just too much for my body. And so I was constantly at a high level of stress. And that's what caused a lot of my issues that I was having. Stress can also be any kind of illness, disease, or infection. Those are all physical stresses. And it can also be an emotional stress, like anger or frustration with a work issue or a relationship problem. Stress can come in so many different forms, and a lot of people might even think they're not stressed out, and they actually are. And of course, right now, the fear and anxiety that we're experiencing with this pandemic is a stress.
Yeah.
So all stress, no matter where it comes from, will raise cortisol, which is the hormone I just mentioned. And if cortisol stays high for too long of a period of time, our immune system is going to suffer. So I recommend finding some ways to reduce stress and to relax. So like I said earlier, go for a walk in the sun, turn off the news and just read a book for pleasure or play a board game with your family. Spend some time with God in prayer and Bible study. Just find some ways to relax and kind of get away from the news. I would say that's a big one right now.
Yeah, and don't keep it inside. So, and we've been trying to encourage people to pick up the phone and call somebody, but that can be something where we can bless another person, but sometimes we need that blessing, and just picking up the phone and being able to just, de-stress ourselves in a conversation can be very beneficial. So
Yep.
Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. So, all right. Whole foods, natural foods, good sleep, movement, and then good stress management. Everything I've read, those are just really solid, wonderful piece of advice. So thank you. And obviously, when it comes to stress management, they can call me their pastor. But in many of these other areas, I really want to encourage everybody, give Amy a call, reach out to her. If you want more information, you want to go deeper, want to know a little bit more. And then she has a program called Restart that you have taught a couple of times to a couple different groups here at church, and everybody I talked to just loved it. And so I hope, I'm assuming that would be available too. You could take people through that program.
I would love to. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, good. Amy, thank you so much. And this is great advice. And I really hope that everybody will take it to heart. And with this advice, we could fend off, quite literally, a lot of sicknesses. Not like it's a foolproof thing, but really fend off a lot. And then certainly, if we should get sick, be able to lower the intensity and also lessen the duration of the sickness. So thank you, Amy. God bless you.
God bless you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.